Today on Bridges, we will hear the story of unplanned parenthood and the case for life. Welcome to Bridges. I'm Monica Schmelter. I'm glad that you could join us today. My guest today is Laurie Hughes, and she's going to share with us her story of becoming pregnant at 15 years old and bringing us up to date on her life now and how choosing life made such a difference for her and her family. It's so good to meet you, Laura, and have you on the program today.
Thank you, Monica.
So, 15 years old, you find out that you're pregnant. What was your first thought?
My dad's gonna kill me.
I think for most, right? For most students, for most teens, it's just like, what are my parents going to say? So did you tell your dad right away, or how did you handle it?
No, I kind of hid the pregnancy, let a couple people guess, and I'll just never forget, like, my mom found out from my sister. And then one night she said, I'm gonna pick Dad up from the airport today, and on the way home, I'm gonna let him know that you're pregnant. So I kind of did what any responsible teenager would do, and I called up my boyfriend, said, come get me, and we went and hid in the church parking lot in his car. Like, I kind of knew where to go, at the church parking lot. And I just stayed there till I got my nerve up, you know. I kept hearing my dad say, every baby is a blessing, every baby is a blessing, and I finally got the courage up to go home.
So, you know, when you say that, and the only reason I want to pause here for a minute is that I can remember so many times as a teenager being afraid that I got in trouble or that I skipped school or I did whatever. And even though I did get in trouble, and rightfully so, it was never really that bad. But as a young person, it just seems larger than life. So even though you had heard your dad say every baby is a blessing, you were raised in what you call a good Irish Catholic family, you were still afraid to tell.
Yes, definitely.
How did your dad respond?
A lot better than I expected. When I finally got my courage to go home, we lived in Billings, Montana, and we had a really long driveway, and I was walking up that driveway, and even though my dad never laid a hand on me, I was thinking, like, you know, what's he gonna say, what's he gonna do? And I had a lot of shame. I didn't know it at the time, but that's what I was feeling. And when I got to the front door, I just did the sign of the cross really fast. And we were Catholic, went to
I'm
Catholic
not laughing
schools.
at you. I just understand that. There's been so many times as a teenager, even before I gave my heart to Christ, I'd be like, God, help me, please. Just help me.
Help me, help me.
Yeah, exactly.
And I put my hand on the door, and I was like, please, God, let my daddy be asleep.
Oh.
You know, he always got up early in the morning to read his Bible. And Monica, just as soon as I opened up that door, there sat my dad across the living room in his favorite green velvet chairs, and he wore these like pop bottle glasses, and he was reading his Bible, and I just took one look at him and just burst into tears. And I just stood there, and he came over to me, and he put his arms around me, and he said, Mom told me that you're getting ready to have a baby, and all I ask from you is that you pray every day what's best for your baby. We're too old to raise another child, and you know, we'll help you to parent if you decide that, or you will place her in adoptive arms. And he said, now get to sleep, because you have school in a couple of hours, because we never miss school in our
You know,
house.
when I listen to that response of your dad, I think, what an amazing man. Like, just what an amazing response, because as parents, and you know now because you're an adult and you've raised children, you know, as a teenager, we think adults have it really easy, but I'm thinking in your dad's shoes, you just hear your sweet girl is pregnant, and to lead you through that trial and through that challenge and to say, well, go get some sleep, you're still going to school. He's amazing.
Yeah, he is, and it really taught me, made it very easy for me to understand the Father God in the Bible, because, you know, like the prodigal child, right? He ran to the Son also, and my dad's the one that came to me and wrapped his arms around me, you know, and it's that that great love that inspires and gives so much grace.
Yes, it is.
To us in times of trouble. And I have used that moment more times than I can count because I have 5 children and 11 grandchildren.
Congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome.
And a couple of the grandkids are in college and high school. And so you learn to parent and grandparent by grace because it's because of love. And so children can take our correction when it's because of love.
Right. Well, and God says in His Word, and I know that I've certainly missed this on occasion and not applied it when I could have. It is His kindness that leads us to repentance.
Absolutely.
Scolding and shaming and humiliating and name-calling and all the things that people can do and that I've done when I'm upset or disappointed and wanted a situation to go a different way, that is not helpful.
No.
It's not from God. So you got this picture of Father God from your dad and the grace and the love, and now you're able to do that for your children and for your grandchildren.
Yes.
So I want us to talk about the book that you wrote here in just a moment, Laura. Before we do that, I want to say I've talked to many people on this program for lots of years, many Christian parents who've said, well, when we found out our teen was pregnant or whatever, we insisted on abortion, or we said, well, you can't live here anymore if you don't get an abortion. And their thought process was not that abortion is okay. It's just that that pregnancy is going to ruin my kid's life. Like, she's 15. She's not done with high school. She hasn't gone to college. Like, she's not going to have a good life. And here you are. So speak to that.
What I have to say to that is, for that particular parent, then what kind of life are you offering your child then? Because there is also negative effects of abortion. And if they knew what they were offering their own daughter, they would rethink that. And it's very powerful when you stick by your child and you offer them hope and empowerment, and you teach and train them in, how to be a mom. It's just really amazing. And so I think that parents, they can either be part of the problem and coerce their daughter instead of coming alongside of her and really giving her what she needs. But I did my own little study in this last year, and all of the young ladies that I've talked to whose moms took them to have an abortion, every last one of them, the moms are also post-abortive. And so you would think that they would not lead their own daughter down that road, but until they're healed, they kind of see that as a solution. So that's why it's really important for parents to be healed of their own woundedness of, sexual abuse or abortion and those type of things, because a healed person is more apt to offer positive responses to their children instead of, everything locked up in shame and guilt.
And, abortion, while it is legal, it is presented as a solution. It's presented as a quick fix, like you can just take care of this, you're going to do this, you're going to have this procedure, and then you're going to go back to normal. But every woman that I've talked to, be it a young woman, I've talked to women who are in their 80s who say, even they got an illegal abortion, like they thought that this was going to fix it, right? And in their 80s, they're still crying and aching with guilt because after they became a mom, after they got married and completed a pregnancy, they realized what they had done. And I don't think a lot of people realize that abortion really isn't a quick fix.
No, it's definitely not a quick fix. It's a big part of deceit, and what Satan came, John 10:10, right? He came to steal, to kill, and to destroy. And that word destroy is like ruach, and it means to unravel. So if you think of unraveling like a sweater you've knit together, and his big plan is to, to totally destroy us. But Jesus came, and he came to destroy the works of the enemy. And so Jesus undoes those.
He does. As we trust him, every step of our obedience undoes one knot of that disobedience. you know what I'm just in theory, it undoes what we've set in motion. When we trust him and when we obey him, he begins to turn all of that around. Now, something else that you share, because I want us to get into the book here in just a moment, is that even after having an unplanned pregnancy at 15, did you learn your lesson and not repeat that?
Oh, no. I absolutely did not learn my lesson. You know, what brings a young lady into unplanned pregnancy, a teen pregnancy, it doesn't get fixed by having a baby, aborting a baby. I mean, it's that, you know, that kind of hole in our heart, what's missing, you know, in our sexuality and things. And I became pregnant again by the same boy. And that pregnancy turned out quite differently. I had caught him at the park with a girl, rolling around in the grass with a girl, and
This is the boyfriend.
yeah. And he denied me, and we'd just been together the night before, and he would drive me to school, take my baby to the daycare, and he said, you know, I'm not with you. And he'd said things before, like, I don't want you, I don't love you, and it was mainly if he was in front of another girl. And so my daughter at home was the reward, you know, she was the big joy. But the problem relationship, I was very, very young. You know, we're way too young to handle sex outside of marriage and parenting. And, and all that jazz.
It's hard enough when you're 25 and married and all of that. I mean, at 15.
Yeah. So I just went home heartbroken and fighting mad, and held my little girl, put her to bed that night, and she was patting my face, and I remember I felt numb. And then when she was patting my face, I kind of felt like I was coming back to life. And I put her to bed, and then in the middle of the night, I just had excruciating pain, and I'd had those pains before. So I went into the bathroom, and I miscarried a little boy at 22 weeks.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Thank you. And he was perfectly formed, you know. He's just a little guy, and I remember his little hands and his feet sprung out, and I thought, you know, like perfectly little formed fingers, and you know, cute little face, and I thought, you know, he'll never learn to walk, you know, he'll never throw a ball. But I was in love with him, and so I was experiencing grief for the first time, and I was crying out to my mom, but I didn't want to wake my baby or my dad. And my mom finally heard my daughter wake up for a bottle, so she came into the bathroom, and she says, you know, Laurie, what's the matter? Are you okay? And you know, I was crying, and she said, are you pregnant again?
Oh, so she didn't even know.
No. And I just said, not anymore.
Oh.
And so she took my baby boy, and I walked into my room, and there was a little plaque on the door, and they nicknamed me Laurie, so it said Laurie's room, and a little pink princess. And I remember looking at that thinking, I'm no princess. And I went into bed, and I had these yellow flowered sheets, and I just pulled them over my head, and you know, went to sleep with my shame and my postpartum sorrow, and you know, I was introduced to that loss. And I didn't talk about the miscarriage for a couple of decades until I asked my mom one day. She was talking about someone else who miscarried, and I got my nerve up. You know, it was about 25 years later, and I said, Mom, what did you do with my little boy? And she said that she took him to the top of the river, the Yellowstone River, because we lived in Billings, Montana, and that she blessed him and she baptized him, and she sent him down the river. And fast forward, you know, about another 10 years, I'm in a river in Honduras. My brother and his wife were missionaries, and we went on a white river rafting, and you know, we thought we were all going to die at one point or the other. It was like the highest
rough waters
you could be in. And I remember when I fell in, and you know, I thought I was going to die, and they're like, swim, swim, and I'm swimming and thinking I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, you know. And when we got down to the end of the water, we were all so grateful that we were alive. And I thought to myself, like, I'm in a river. this is the first time I've been in a river. And my mom placed my baby, who I had secretly named Moses,
Oh, my goodness.
in the river. And I thought, what was there for him at the end of that river, God? And I heard he came to me. So I'm at the end of the river. I lived from the whitewater rafting, and I'm like, well, I want to come to you, God. I want to come to you. And so at the end of the river, I got baptized. And so it was really, really beautiful and full circle for me to know that, that losing my baby and then having a little girl as a teenager, you know, through my parents discipling me and through the power, the transformation power of the gospel, like at the very end, even my pain of loss and losing the baby, I was able to, you know, get baptized and really learn to live, because I'd been holding on to all that grief, and there's nothing like letting go of some grief and mourning.
No, and God helps us to do that. We've got to take a break. In just a moment, we want you to stay with us. When we come back, we're going to hear more about Laura's story, how her life, how it has continued on, how God has blessed, and about the book that she's written that will help all of us be able to choose life. We'll be back in just a moment.
Don't miss another episode of Bridges. Subscribe to our YouTube channel today, where you can find all of Monica's latest teachings and interviews. It's easy to do. Just visit youtube.com, search Monica Schmelter, and click subscribe. Once you are subscribed, click the bell icon to get notified when a new episode is available to view. Thanks for watching Bridges.
Join the Bridges community on Facebook. Visit Facebook and search for Bridges with Monica. We would love to connect with you.
For more information on today's guest, visit the website on your screen.
If you're just joining us today on Bridges, my guest is Laurie Hughes. She's been sharing her personal story of becoming a mom at just 15 years old. And she's also written a book called Choose Zoe that outlines her story, but also helps us in so many ways look at life and what God really intends. And, you know, Laura, I'm just so grateful for you being here today and for sharing your story and sharing really about how it was the people that loved you and God's grace that saw you through these really trying times and brought you through a more compassionate person. What made you decide to write the book?
Well, I volunteer in a pregnancy clinic, and there's nothing like helping out young girls with unplanned pregnancies when you've had one yourself. But in 1 month, there was 3 12-year-olds. Now I was 15. So I was thinking 12 years old, like I had a banana seat bite. I rode all over town. And I just...
You were a girl at 12 years old. So was I. Like, I was not... Yeah. 12 was so young.
Yeah, we were kids, you know, and it's actually illegal to have sex when you're 12 years old.
You know, I didn't know that.
And good reason. You're too young, obviously.
Yeah.
And then as mandated reporters, when you find out someone is having sex, then you can investigate and see if the other, you know, if the boy is 12 as well, or if he's 16 or 22, and what course of action. But we always report when she's 12 years old. Period. End of subject. Whatever the situation is, it's still reported. Well, this one girl, the last girl, we talked, and she had a pregnancy test that was positive, and we talked about how far along she was and the situation with her boyfriend, and she was really nervous, and so I thought I would kind of, you know, cut through the wall, and I showed her fetal development. And she was 11 weeks along after her ultrasound, and I let her know that that's my favorite milestone of fetal development, because in high schools I teach fetal development, and at 11 weeks, I call it the candid camera milestone, because the baby begins to smile and have expressions. And also,
At 11 weeks.
Yes, and then the baby can also pee in the mother's womb. So that's what all the high school kids do, is laugh.
I don't know why, like, that's never really occurred to me, but okay.
Yeah, the kids love that. And so she laughed as well, and it really helped to break the ice. And also, she was very afraid, and so I talked to her about understanding those fears. And even like with Mary and Joseph, right, the most famous unplanned pregnancy under their perspective.
Right.
I mean,
Absolutely.
very unexpected to them, planned by God. But, you know, Mary could have rejected that. Joseph could have rejected that. But the angel Gabriel went to both Mary and to Joseph. And the first thing he said was, do not fear.
Yeah.
And so I kind of helped her, you know, dismantle some of her fears and talk through how she would talk to the boyfriend, how she talked to the parents. And then I had to feel like the worst person in the world, you know, as an advocate for life, an advocate for her as a client. I had to share with her that I was a mandated reporter and that I was going to have to call the authorities. And so I called the police, and they were able to take care of it from there. But when I went home that night, I was just like overwrought, thinking, 3 12-year-old girls, this can't be true. But I was there.
Right.
And so this girl, I just went to bed and I said, God, like, how can I help? And it was about 3:30 in the morning, you know, when God got my attention. And I kind of felt this nudging, like, get up, write, educate my people. And I'm thinking, write? I've never written an article before. Like, what am I supposed to write? And I just got up and I took my pen and paper and I started writing, and I wrote out, choose Zoe. And I'm like, what is that? You know? And he just would inspire me every day. I would get up around the same time before I'd go to work, and I would just begin to write. It's the first thing I've written. It got published. And
that's amazing that you had no interest in being a writer. You hadn't written an article, and your first thing is a book, and it gets published.
yes,
So that's God.
it kind of felt like it. Definitely, you know, when we learn to really hear him, right? You know, my sheep know my voice. And when we begin to hear him, whether it's through a dream or something audible or just a feeling we get, or, you know, a beautiful sunset, you know, however God speaks to us, you know it clearly when he's giving you an assignment, you know? And I just kind of was inspired by Queen Esther, right? Because abortion is like, she was fighting things in her culture that weren't popular. And yet she said, you know, I might risk my life, but it's to save other people. I'm going to do this. And that's, you know, that's what I did. I just felt like I'm going to do the assignment that God calls me to do. And it was really incredible when I had looked up what Zoe means in the Bible, like in John 10:10. So Jesus said, I came to give you life and life more abundantly. And it's that word life is Zoe in the Greek, and it's talking about the eternal divine life. And when you think about that, like, we're not just helping people that are pregnant, or if it's ourselves being pregnant or miscarrying or having an abortion, or, you know, foster care, adoption, even infertility. You know, it's God is the one that comes in and helps us with those things. And, you know, he would speak, Jesus, when he was here, he would speak to systemic issues and things.
He did.
But he would always transform the heart. And so I thought, okay, well, this is why Jesus came, you know. He came to give us life more abundantly.
Yes, he did.
Whether it's in the womb, physical life.
All life.
All life.
All life, and true life, you know, as opposed to what how we imagine that life should go or that will go. Tell me some of the things, Laura, that are in the book that might be helpful to someone.
Okay. Well, you know, there's always hope. And my daughter in high school, one of my daughters, Amanda, she was thinking to herself, like, friends in high school are aborting. They're not taking this serious, this gift of life, because she had just been told that she had a deformed womb. It's a bicornuate uterus shaped like a heart, and down the middle is kind of this tougher material than a uterus. And so you would have a tough time getting pregnant. And if you did, she also had a closed tube and really bad endometriosis, which is why we ended up in the hospital, because she was almost septic. And we found out that she had all the fertility issues. And my mom used to come from Billings, Montana to California. We both are January babies, and so every January for about 10 years, we fasted and prayed for Amanda to one day have a child, and for a few other things in the family.
Sure.
And my mother since passed, but our prayers do not die.
They don't.
Which is exciting to think about. I never really thought about that until she died.
Yeah, our prayers are not trapped in time. It says that they continually rise before him.
Yeah.
And so we're trapped in time, but he's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so exciting. And so every time a miracle happens or somebody comes to the Lord that my mom prayed for,
That's
I'm
right.
like, there's another one, there's another one. Like, so anyway, my daughter Amanda, she got pregnant naturally. And that's her little baby on the cover. And
Her
so it's
adorable little baby.
Yes.
And who's holding her, this
that's
tattooed
my
arm?
son-in-law, Jeff, and you know, full of tattoos, kind of looks like the world, right? And then you have this
Sweet
little
baby.
innocent, sweet baby. She was just about 5 pounds, and she's just adorable. She is very pro-life as well. She's been doing some art, and
That's wonderful.
and when I got the book, I waited for her. She's 8 now, and so when it came out, she was about 6 years old, and I waited for her to pull it out of the box, and she pulled it out, and she's like, I'm a cover girl, I'm a cover girl. Then she flips it around and sees my picture and goes, you're a cover girl too.
Yeah, you are. And I think about, you know, we're out of time, but I just think about your story, and to have a teen pregnancy at 15, and now to really have come full circle and to write a book and to be supporting and helping people choose life. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Been good to have you here today.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching Bridges. Prayer changes things. If you need prayer, call 615-754-0039 or email prayer@ctntv.org.
Don't give in. God's word says you're an overcomer. It takes training, it takes discipline. And so when you're fighting that good fight of the faith, you take your story, whatever it is, and you saturate it in faith, and you fight for it.
Visit monicaschmelter.com to schedule Monica to speak at your next event.
If you're looking for ways to grow your faith, we invite you to go to monicaschmelter.com, where you can watch Bridges interviews and Monica's teachings on demand. You'll also find free online extras that offer practical ways to live out your faith. Visit monicaschmelter.com, where you'll find hope, because truth changes everything.